Good afternoon, and welcome to the Association of Black Psychologists, New York chapters, Black History Month series, and our discussion with one of our esteemed colleagues, Dr. Lisa Whitten. And we are so honored to have you here today, Dr. Whitten. Thank you.
And I'm honored to be here.
Great, great. So just by way of formal introduction, my name is Marcus Daugherty, and I'm the current president of the New York chapter of the Association of Black Psychologists. So today, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, we have our esteemed colleague here, Dr. Lisa Whitten, and I just want to give you just a brief intro. Dr. Whitten has been an inspiration and an icon for the New York chapter of the Association of Black Psychologists. She has been involved with this work, and she's been involved in this chapter for over 30 years, and she's been intricately involved with the Association of Black Psychologists at the national level in various initiatives and various causes over the decades. So again, Dr. Whitten, thank you for being here today. And just to kind of benefit, thank you. And just to kind of benefit from your knowledge and expertise, I'd just like to ask you, just for our audience, what was it about psychology, or what was it that interested you in becoming a psychologist?
Oh boy, that's a long story, obviously, but I think I was always a very introspective and sort of shy and quiet person. And so I spent a lot of time observing people because I wasn't in there interacting with folks the way my sister was, for example. And so I got interested in just, why are people behaving like this? And why is my mother like this and my father's like that? And, you know, I wasn't as consciously aware of those questions growing up, of course, but I do remember being very observant and very observant of myself and wondering why I was the way I was. Why was I so quiet? And my sister was so much more outgoing. And then I always knew I wanted to work with people, not numbers or formulas or things like that. I initially thought I would be a teacher, and then as the students became more and more unruly when I got into junior high, I was like, let's rethink that. And I saw the movie David and Lisa when I was 16. I always have to mention that. This is a movie that was first made in, I believe, the 60s with an all-white cast. And then in the maybe early 80s, Sidney Poitier did a version of it where he played a psychiatrist. And the key was that this psychiatrist was working with schizophrenic adolescents. And I just remember being sort of blown away by the way this psychiatrist drew out these schizophrenic young people and communicated with them, even though they were very hard to communicate with. And I think that had a huge impact on me. And then when I got to Michigan, University of Michigan in 1973, I started with psychology classes. I continued with that, and then I added anthropology, and that brought in a nice cultural element to it, because back then the culture was not discussed in my psych classes. And so that's the short version of how I got interested in the field. I just always found it interesting, and actually I liked the anthropology courses better when I got into those. But I didn't know what to do with it as a career. And I knew that what I could do as a psychologist, and this has worked out pretty well for me.
I would definitely say so, given the years of service and dedication you've given to the Association of Black Psychologists. Definitely. One thing that struck me, though, was your interest in people and differences in people, and then the interest in anthropology, which really speaks to culture and really speaks to how cultures connect with people and how people connect with cultures. Can you tell us a little bit about how you took those interests and parlayed them into work with the Association of Black Psychologists, and, you know, also particularly with the New York chapter?
Okay. Well, growing up, I was always exposed to different cultures. My father had served in Gifu City during the Korean War, and he had a book of photographs of Japanese people on the coffee table, and I looked at it repeatedly. My mother is of Bahamian descent, so there was that cultural piece. And we have friends from Taiwan. My parents had Jewish friends. I was exposed to a broad range of people and was taught to respect everyone. And so that's that got reinforced in my study of anthropology. Dr. Vern Carroll, my primary mentor, talked so much about how we have to see things from the point of view, from the worldview of the people that we're studying, and not impose some external point of view on what we're trying to understand about people that we're working with. And so that really stuck with me. And I believe I brought that to the association. Let's see, I hadn't thought of it quite this way, but there are different cultural components of New York ABPsi and the national. This became, I think, really evident when in the early 80s, when we decided to become an African-centered organization. And so I was trained dynamically at the Gordon Derner Institute. Well, now it's called the Derner School of Psychology at Adelphi University. I was trained with a lot of Freudian thought and so on. And at the Association of Black Psychologists, that was really being downplayed and ridiculed. So I think I really had to maneuver in that context and try to think about how the culture of African-centered thought and the culture of dynamic thought could be wed, could be merged and used together, you know. And I think I've also thought about the different issues that people from various groups bring to the organization. From in the very beginning, I was really interested. I started as a student, okay? In 1979, our graduate program gave us money to travel to the Association of Black Psychologists convention, and I was just in awe of being in a room full of 400 or 500 Black psychologists and psychology students, because I had gone to Michigan, where I was one of 2 or 3 people in the room at all times. And so I really wanted to focus on students and getting students more involved. I hadn't been a part of a Greek letter organization. I never pledged, and I wasn't on a team of any sort. So this was sort of my group, my community, you know, starting from when I was in my early 20s. And I wanted to try to get other students interested to the same degree I was. At the time, there was a split and between professionals and students. And I worked along with Dennis Chestnut and Hal Fairchild and Robert Sellers and others to form a student division of the association back in the early 80s. That ultimately became the student circle because Adisa Ajamu pointed out wisely that division is not a great word because we don't want to be divided, but circle was a better word. So the student division became the student circle. So I almost see those, you know, students and professionals as different cultural groups in a way too. And it took a lot of work to get some of the professionals to see the value of bringing students from the periphery to the center or of the organization and to having more power. And that's been an ongoing evolution over the years with peaks and valleys. But that was my real focus for the first, I would say, 20 years or so of my involvement in the organization, especially nationally. Darlene DeFore, Sam Johnson, and I co-authored a resource manual for African-American psychology students, and we revised it several times. I was always trying to think of how to get students involved. I was president of the chapter 5 times, and at least 4 of those when I decided to involve students by having a student do an independent study and serve as my assistant. I needed an assistant because of the way my brain works. And so that was a way of getting them involved. And I also had a number of students join us on the board, not just, working as an assistant, but as a part of the board of directors. And those are some of the things that come to mind in answer to your question.
Great. So I can really see the intersection of your work over the years, particularly with students and culturally in terms of the importance of really bringing students into a circle of professionals to help to develop and to grow them as professionals. And also really the work of psychologists from an Afrocentric perspective, which is really important for our community in terms of our historical lineage and how we work with people of color. So I can see the intersectionality of all of your work, starting with students and then building from without. And then also just to say, Dr. Whitten, your work is really evident within the chapter itself over the years as well. So I just want to thank you for that. So given your knowledge and experience, Dr. Whitten, what would be your advice to aspiring psychologists or those that are seeking a career in psychology?
I would say to be open to a range of people who could possibly mentor you and assist you as you proceed through your training. It's a wonderful field. There are so many possibilities. And obviously, my involvement in the Association of Black Psychologists has just been critical to my development as a psychologist and as a person. And I know that I gravitated toward the ABPsi in part because I didn't have Black mentors when I was in college. I had something like 3 Black professors the whole time and 2 Black professors who were both adjuncts while I was in graduate school. So being exposed to Dr. Bill Lyle and to all of my colleagues, Sam Johnson and Ansley Lamar and Darlene DeFore and Catherine Giscombe and some of our other past presidents, Denise Iohan Zami. So I just really found all of those connections so important. Okay. And I think I got a little bit off track of your particular question, but advice for students to get involved in ABPsi. It's such a rich experience and such a varied experience, and there's so much that can be learned in terms of again the range of possibilities in terms of theoretical orientation, and in terms of the kinds of work that people are doing. Most of us are in counseling and clinical and social psychology, but there are people in other fields as well, and we're always looking to bring neuropsychologists and other folks in. It's an excellent opportunity to bond with like-minded people and to find ways to creatively serve our communities.
Excellent. And, I must say that, everything you said really, really speaks to a community. It really speaks to connection. It speaks to intersectionality. And it also speaks to empowerment, which is something that, from my personal experience, I find to be extremely rewarding within the association and within our chapter as well. So I want to thank you, Dr. Whitten, for your insight, for your knowledge. This has been a great period of time to really talk about the association and your experience. And before we end today, is there anything you would like to leave with our audience?
Yes, I would like to say that there are many opportunities for people to become involved in the association. We're looking for undergraduate students and graduate students and what's the ECPs, early career professionals, and more seasoned people. We want people across the spectrum. And we have lots of ideas, but it takes people to implement those ideas. And our current president, Mr. Daugherty, has been such a driving force in keeping us moving. And we just need more human resources, and so I want to encourage folks to look into us, to check out our website, to check out anyone who's involved, or to contact those of us who are very involved on our website, and to look at our YouTube videos. I'm very proud of the one that I did with Dana Collins, who was president a couple years ago, where I talk about my experience with mental illness. And there are just so many possibilities. And, it's important for us to be involved in all kinds of organizations, but we really need folks here.
On that note, I want to say thank you. And I must humbly say that I could not do this work in this chapter without standing upon the shoulders of the elders and the professionals that came before me. So definitely thank you. Thank you, Dr. Whitten, for your insights, for your knowledge. And thank you for being part of our Black History Month series this year. And we look forward to seeing you and your continued work. So on that note, thank you. And thank you, audience, for listening. And please, 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 any questions, please go to our website. Please reach out to us. We're here for the community. We're looking for active members and membership. And please become a part of our New York chapter. And thank you, and have a great remainder of Black History Month. Take care, be well. Ashe, Ashe.